Hello.
Hey,
You're recording it so early.
yeah. That's what you do.
Then you can record attendance. Who came first? Who's late?
You can do all kinds of things.
It's true. World's your oyster when you record a meeting.
It's, I mean, we should just stream them and have them auto save to a YouTube
I was
channel
gonna
so
eat
people can catch
snacks
up.
on here.
What are you
I'll turn my
snacking on?
video off. I just went to Whole Foods for lunch and I got these little like dark chocolate cups.
Nice.
That's what I'm talking about.
So
Is
far,
that
Um,
dark?
no, you go ahead.
It's chocolate with chocolate, or is that chocolate with peanut butter? It's
it's
chocolate with
chocolate with
chocolate.
chocolate.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I'm serious about it. So
Mm.
Yeah. I do a lot of baking, like little desserts and stuff. Casey doesn't really like sweets, but I imposed it on him. And with the kitchen gone, I have to just buy sweets every day.
I love that.
Bad. We were talking yesterday because I'll do the dishes and like clean up the kitchen and he'll run to the bathroom usually after dinner. And I always have like a little dessert because you gotta have a little something chocolatey after you eat your meal. And he's just realizing that the last year I've been eating dessert without him every night. He's like, well, I've been missing out on this. I
Poor Casey.
know. I thought that was funny. Like, yeah, you didn't know. There's always a little something after the dishes.
I love it.
Maybe he'll stick around longer, help with the dishes and everything, wait for that dessert.
Just the company would be fun. I don't mind. Oh,
Hey
All
Jordan.
right, we'll
Hey
give
Derek.
Hey,
give Chris another minute and we'll start.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was just on a call with him, so he's probably wrapping up his thoughts and then jumping over. Yep.
There he
Jordan,
is.
Jordan, are you dialing in from Pawnee?
Yes, I am. Good eye.
It's one of my favorite shows. I consider Ron Swanson to be my spirit animal.
Then we'll get along just fine.
See, I had no idea. I thought Jordan was really into hunting. And I was honestly kind of sad to find out, but it's okay.
I love it. All right, y'all. Hey, Chris. Um, let's go ahead and kick off. I really appreciate it. And Jordan, thanks for joining us here. I know that there's, you know, road mapping and planning is sometimes elusive, but I know, especially from like your perspective, I think so. Like we just want to keep you close to all the things that we're thinking about and headed towards and kind of the end of the year here and towards the new year. So thanks for taking the time to join us. Um, my goal here today really is to just kind of set the stage for road mapping in general. So an announcement was just made here recently around how we're going to be standardizing the road mapping process, which I think is actually really great. And it's important to push it down into our team so that way we all can have a good handle on what it is that we're working on and be able to contribute as a whole. What we've decided to do, what the company's decided to do, is that we're going to be using Dragon Boat as kind of like the single source for cross-functional teams as a whole. So when I think about like our like our product marketing counterparts or legal or getting input from Rose, like they're going to be focused. They're going to be looking at kind of that Dragon Boat level. Whereas down at the tripod level, you know, Juliana, Ashley, Derek, Chris, like will be working most likely inside of Jira. And it's going to like the onus is on us to make sure as product managers to make sure that Dragon Boat is up to date. But what I want to do is start like more regularly syncing on what we have kind of like plotted out, you know, 6 to 12 months down the road. So that way it's just like in front of our faces. And then we can start to solicit feedback from, you know, like we're already doing it today, but it'll just become more of like a ritual, and we don't have to think about it so much. But the goal really is for the companies trying to get to, it's a pretty strong goal. By November 6th, they're going to be just using Dragon Boat across the board. So what that means for us is, as a team, we've got to go into Dragon Boat, and essentially just claim the roadmaps that have already been kind of pre-created for us. And Ashley and I have already gone in there and kind of created the epics, or the initiatives and stuff like that. But what's really cool about this is, you know, they've started to standardize like the actual language around all of this. I figured, Chris, like you'd be really interested in this as well, because now we can actually like clearly articulate like what an actual roadmap is, what the roadmap should solve and what it should not solve, right? And why it's important to Procore. And then also we talk about like how we use these things and how they map inside of Jira. So I thought like a lot of these artifacts were like really helpful. And I just want you all to know that these are, A, they exist, and B, like as a small team, like we're going to start to use them. All right. Like fair enough. One of the things that I wanted to do today was actually just kind of like walk through what we have for growth. So this is essentially a table that has all of the roadmaps pre-created by product ops. So that way the tripods can just go in and grab them and then build off of what's already been created for us. Luckily, Tatiana has like really helped Ashley and I get ahead of this a little bit. So like when we jump into Dragon Boat here today, you'll be able to see essentially all of the stuff that's rolled up into growth. So one thing to keep in mind is that we've got, so the business registry is a system inside of the PCN domain. It's rolled up into an initiative. It's over here as a group called PCN Bidding Network. And then we have the PCN web as well. And then we also have the account creation or the account management system. The PCN Bidding Network row is really the one where the majority of our work lives today. And then what we're looking at the way that we're looking at this is by phase and then by initiative, right? And then there's another level down under initiative. I forget what it's called. What's the word?
Value release?
Yeah, value release, right? So it's like you've got your initiative, and then underneath your initiatives, you have like all of the value releases. Value release is essentially, you know, a layer in between our epics and how they're then viewed inside of Dragon Boat. So it's not a one-to-one mapping, but they are close. So I think just as long as we as a tripod know that, you know, Dragon Boat's going to be used, so that way we can communicate cross-functionally across the organization to get buy-in and get people's opinions on certain things to help us make decisions faster and build product. That's really important. Whereas inside of Jira, there's still a lot of flexibility for us to actually do the work that we need to do. Things like tech dat, Lodo, all that kind of stuff is still going to be there. It's probably just not going to be represented in here as you know, as it's as easy to see. So I just wanted to call these things out. Today, what we have on the roadmap that's visible for everybody in the organization is we've got the acquisition bets to achieve our supply goal of 150,000 by the end of 2023, which we're well on pace. I think the last time I looked at this, we've got 136,000 profiles on the PCN today. We're on track to hit our goal by the end of October. And then by the end of the year, we'll be somewhere around 215,000 profiles. So like, that's pretty huge. And then what really allowed us to unlock that was like the profile claiming flow, which is still underway. It's not completely done yet. And then we'll have the collaborator invite flow, which is also kind of like VR2. And then the last thing that we're working on is the PCN business profile page enhancements, which I think we're all aligned here, right? Like these are the main things that are in our minds, right? Yes, no, sort of. Juliana, am I missing anything?
I don't think so. Yeah.
This is because there's like a lot of stuff that's built into these too. And then the ones that we haven't started yet, or I shouldn't say haven't started yet, we just haven't started to build against. But we have started to do a lot of discovery work on is the public project pages and then PCN internationalization. I don't know if I want to call the initiative PCN internationalization. It's almost like I just want to, it is internationalization. I don't know. I'm struggling with this because when I think about like an internationalization strategy for Procore, like that's one thing, right? And it's kind of like big and it's gnarly where you have like a go-to-market motion and you're like doing all this work to get customers to adopt bidding and then use the PCN internationally. That's one motion. The other motion in my mind is that this is just me as like a whole product advocate and like systems thinker, is that I know that we have systems that just can't handle international addresses, and it drives me crazy. You know, like the PCN web app had like it had the country code for US hard coded for the longest time, and then we resolved it, and that one's done. But it's like little things like that that really bug me. So maybe it's not PCN internationalization, maybe it's like whole product work or tech debt that we just need to like resolve that will then enable our systems to be international. I don't know. So I'm still thinking through that, but the end of the day, the outcome for this is actually like the PCN will be able to be consumed internationally.
Maybe we just say PCN goes international
Yeah.
because we want them this high level that anyone would know what it means from a objective level in Dragon Boat.
Matt, I think the clarification that it's product and development work is really important. And it's distinct from actually, which is also very important, like going to those markets and working on adoption and things like that. Tim, it sounds like this is more about making sure that we can do that. Is that right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, currently the product can't. There's going to be a lot of like website restrictions. Everyone has different things in different countries and all kinds of fun stuff to do.
And this touches free accounts, right? I commented on the doc too, but I don't actually know off the top of my head if we can handle translations in the free account, for example. Like if you want to go and update your PCM business page.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that like all the MFEs were coded in our way of localizing the strings. So
nice.
I hope that gets us a fair amount of way there, but yeah, to your point, I don't know what state we're in there.
Yeah, the address forms is a great example. Like I'm pretty sure those are not set up to do that.
Mm-hmm. And then I'm sure there's other things too that when we start to break this one down, which we already have a roadmap here that's kind of like a work in progress. It's kind of like a spike of spikes that Rom created for us. But when you start to unpack this too, we need to like loop Jordan in to make sure that we're doing all of the right things from like an end user licensing agreement point of view. I know that there are different rules when you go into different countries, and just to make sure that we have with the website handles it from like a GDPR perspective, and that when people do sign up that we have all of the checkboxes in the right spot. I know we have enough checkboxes, but we might need more checkboxes in different countries. So this is one of those things where when we really start to unpack it, Jordan, I think it's just important for you to have on your radar, that we're going to need your support or the team support.
Yep. And that's the helpfulness of this, is being able to get that ahead of the time.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. So I updated the title here to just enable the PCN for international markets instead of PCN internationalization, because that's a little bit too audacious. But this is pretty good. I think this is what we have kind of in hand. And then Chris, try not to bleed over into free accounts or like the free account world, which I know you really live in a lot, but try to stay focused on just PCN web and business registry. And then we also have the account creation stuff that Tem is doing as well. And a lot of that stuff is built in to some of this as well. So I just want to make sure that we're capturing a lot of it and have it in hand. So that's what we have today. This is what people can see when they go to Dragon Boat. When we click on, just to give you an example, when we click on one of these, all of the metadata should be updated as well. So like my responsibility is going to be to work with Ashley and Tem, make sure that all of the metadata in these is up to date and accurate. So that way, when anybody could just like click the Dragon Boat link and then see exactly what's going on and have access to the documentation. These are actually mapped to Jira. So there is a two-way, it is a two-way street, which I think is great for us folks that like to live inside of Jira. And when we click on the internationalization one or the enable PCN for international markets, see, look, it worked. It actually updated it. I updated it in Dragon Boat and it updated in Jira. We should have confidence. Right, super high level description here. And then we've got the docs linked so that way people can get into it. And then all of this data as well is mapped over into Dragon Boat. So whenever we update something here or we update something there, they should sync. I think there's only like 2 fields that don't sync, which I think is really good. And then from here, we can just start to like build out the entire roadmap, and then people will have visibility into it. Like they can just go right from Dragon Boat and they can say, hey, I wonder what's coming up next. And they'll say, oh, we need to enable the PCN for international markets. They can go right from this view right into Jira and then start to see all of the work. Right. And I just think of like our friends like Beth or like Simi, who are going to be in these meetings like randomly, or even, I don't know, like Jordan and Paul, like they're in the meetings and they see these things like at a high level. And they're like, well, wait a minute, like, what is that really? This will actually just allow them to like zoom right in and see, okay, now I know what I should be, should I be concerned or like, where can I help? Right. I guess will really help people kind of like work through what we've got going on in the backlog. Same thing too, from like a product marketing perspective, when they see these things, they can start to kind of like really plot out, how am I going to market this thing? Like, do I need to actually do anything, or is this all engineering work? Hopefully it saves people a bunch of time. So this is what we got in hand. I feel pretty confident about this stuff, but there's like a whole slew of work that we haven't documented yet. We've got a bunch of harebrained ideas, and over the next couple weeks, Ashley and I are going to work on product briefs. Ashley's going to lead a bunch of the product briefs because she's got some really good ideas on how to improve the Procore Construction Network's web app. And then we're going to slowly start to like build these out. And with that, we're just going to start to kind of build up that not started column. So that way we can kind of see the majority of the work kind of like just grow. And then phase 0 really means like, all right, we're going to get to work. Ashley, do you want to just talk a little bit about some of the things that you have on the list, just to get people kind of interested in them, or do you want me to bore you all with more process stuff? I have more process docs if you guys want to look at process docs.
I vote for Ashley. Sorry, Tim.
Crowd goes wild. No, I'm
Process
kidding.
docs are so boring.
I learned
Awesome.
a lot.
So yeah, let me pull up my little doc I can show y'all. So this is just a document between Tim and I that is just some of my brainstorm. So all of y'all will get like formalized briefs, and there will be roadmaps and all kinds of things later. But just to show a little bit in here, we were discussing, as you know, the project pages. but carrying on with our theme of general profile enhancements. So what would this look like for 2024, and what are some of the big ideas that we have there? So, and again, I want to pull from all y'all too. So if anyone thinks of anything, please let me know. Let's explore it. Let's add it on there. But more data, as we know, integration with directory. We got some cool feedback at Groundbreak about like if someone's logged into their experience, maybe they can save directly to the directory from a PCN profile. I want to talk to Sarah about it, see what that would look like. All types of referral programs, analytics that we can provide on their profiles, product work to drive users to fill out more on their profile and stay active. What do we qualify as an active user? Do we consider maybe graying out or pulling an inactive profile at a certain point from bidding? Maybe that's access that you lose if you're not active within 6 months. Things to explore. Doing a portfolio of photos, showcasing projects on their page. Maybe this is the top 5 projects they've worked on this year that they're really excited to show off their work. Adding a job history. This would tie in with interlinking to the public project pages. So that way you get the companies linked to projects that they've worked on. It works beautifully for SEO. It's a really cool way for people to find each other on the network. And then, yeah, number 7 is more ideas. I have some more. This is all I typed today. So would love to hear from y'all. And then let's see, just regular data management work, SEO work, all kinds of cool things that I think that we can work on. So,
I like the list. And then as we start to get the product briefs kind of written, we can just add them to this roadmap view and then start to kind of like just ask people for feedback and then just keep this product roadmap view kind of like it's like a working document, right? Like it's a living, breathing thing. Like when we get something, we can add it, we can work on it, get people educated around what it is, and then just constantly provide status updates. Like, hey, we're going to move this thing to phase 0, phase 1, phase 2, we're working on it. Or, hey, we got through discovery on this one, we're going to kill it. Right? Like
definitely.
it's just not worth it. And that's, I think, is just as valuable as like taking something all the way through production. So I want to make it more of want to build it more into like create rituals around, not rituals, but like make it more of like part of our ceremonies. So I think when we have either our weekly backlog grooming session or our retros, maybe not the retros, but we should carve out at least like 5 to 10 minutes to just do like a quick backlog review and say like, hey, what are the big initiatives that we have? What are the value releases that are on the docket? And then what are the things that are like, what are we executing against? What's in phase 0 that we've already fleshed out that we haven't started? And then what are the things that, are going to move into discovery? I think that'll really, really help us just keep the backlog up to date. So I don't know.
I think you had a really good public document that you shared a few months ago with some ideas for future work. So maybe I'll just go add these there as well. So that way it's public and everyone can view, add, leave comments, etc.
Yeah, there is. I've got actually, who was commenting to me in this thing just recently? It was Mr. Chris.
Yay.
Hold on a second. Yeah,
Is that right?
Yeah, this is the other doc. So like the PCN, like PCN, the future and new ideas. We started to kind of like unpack a bunch of ideas here. So what's the 1 to 3 year vision? There's a materials marketplace, public bid board, public project pages. So we know that we're going to do this one. Started to do some discovery work with the CCD or Jaya's team on this one. I think materials marketplace is kind of like a bigger, meatier project that involves suppliers and like how do we connect suppliers on the Procore Construction Network and what's their role here at Procore. Haven't really unpacked it yet, but I think there's something there that we should either pursue or decide to defer to later on. So I think these are some of the bigger ideas that we can start to unpack as well, and then just add them to the list of things for discovery, like in the roadmap, like in that Dragon Boat view, and then just say, hey, we're going to go run these things down and make them visible to everybody else. So that way at least people know that we're thinking about them and how it would work with the PCN. And we can either get to work on it or we can just, defer it to a later day. And then I think that's really it. I really just wanted to take the time to get everybody's heads wrapped around we have this awesome new process by product ops that's going to allow us to like standardize the way that we do product road mapping across the entire org. So, and it's new, but I think the sooner we start to fumble through this, like the sooner we'll actually start to like learn and just get things into Dragon Boat and get people's reactions to them. And, Mary and Mark might come back and say like, hey, we really don't need that much detail, or hey, there's not enough detail there at all, or it's not like a strategic initiative, like why is it there, it should be a value release. It'll just help us like understand how to to get ideas through the pipe and get them more eyeballs across a broader set of individuals. So I'm excited about it. I know it feels a little clunky at first, but I think the sooner we get to it, the easier it'll be.
From what I'm briefly reading about it, I agree. It definitely feels like it's going in the right direction for the roadmap.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. We actually have artifacts now to lean on that tells us what a roadmap is at Procore, what a value release is, what an initiative is, how they map back to Jira. I mean, it's all documented, right? So that gives me like a lot of confidence in our abilities to actually like move this thing through as a process, like an actual process. One more process doc. Sorry. Already. And then y'all can tell me to take a hike. This is the FY24 planning P&T early notice deck. So what is it? It's a heads up on planning and what's coming for Q4. I'm so grateful that like Mark and Mary sent this out, because what it's doing is it's just setting our expectations that, hey, like we had a plan for 3 years, we executed against the plan, and now it's the end of the year and we have to get ready for our annual plan for 2024, but we're also resetting the strategy for the upcoming year as well. And what that means is like a lot of stuff is just kind of like feels ambiguous right now, right? So like get ready and just have your ducks in a row so that way like you can contribute when it's your turn. It just made me feel good to know that we're going to get like, it's like just get comfortable being uncomfortable for a little while and it's all going to shake out. So this is the general timeline. Planning kickoff, right? FP&A starts in September. First submissions in October, second submissions in November, third submissions in December, and then we kick things off in after the holiday. So this is like generally like the general cadence for like what we can expect before the new year kicks off, and like all the teams have like the green light for funding, and like the engineers can start to go fire and just start building against our product roadmap. So this should answer a lot of questions for you. Hopefully it makes you sleep better at night. I know it does. I sleep better at night knowing that we have a plan. And then this is our key objectives and deliverables by submission. So you can kind of see what the primary objective is for each one of these, and how they actually influence the decisions that we're making. We do have, a 3-year strategy focus on essentially 3 strategic pillars. So we went from 5 to 3, which I think is great. This will allow us to focus a little bit better. One is grow the base, which selfishly, like the Procore Construction Network has like the greatest, like we have like a huge lever that we can just help grow the base, right? Any new company that's added to the Procore Construction Network is essentially growing the base. Which I feel like is really, really important. And it'll just continue to increase the flywheel. The more customers we have, the more users we get, the more users we have, the more customers we get. It's like this virtuous cycle that just never ends. And the more connected we make them, the better it's going to be. Unlocking triple tan, right? Super important. That's 2025, 2026. And then it's just like crush it. We have the entire global 250 ENR customers on our platform, which would be amazing. 20% logo capture of the ENR 250 would be unbelievable. This is more kind of like a deep dive of what we can expect by October 19th. So we've got like the topology, domain investments, software investments, operation strategy, that kind of stuff. We've got the corporate initiative and scoping. So this is really like these are the two fun ones for me. I shouldn't say like the expense portfolio isn't interesting. It actually is interesting, but like as a product person, I just want to know what like the corporate initiatives are and how they're scoped. And then I want to know what the actual growth drivers are so that way we can just go crush it. And a lot of the things that we already have in the roadmap, I feel like will end up contributing to a lot of these. So we're going to have to work as this thing becomes, more clear as to like what we're actually targeting. We can start to tailor kind of like the roadmap around it. But we already know that public project pages is going to help tremendously. Growing more profiles on the PCN is going to help tremendously. The account creation or the account management system that enables things like the creation of accounts through like natural growth loops inside of the application is going to help tremendously. So I feel like we have like a good handle on the levers that we can pull as a team. I feel like what we can do is just like optimize. So like once we get all of those things out, then we can like really hit the pedal and just like fine tune things. Like I feel like we've built something like really, really cool, but like we can just make it so much better. So that's what that one looks like. And then this is, the product strategy and timeline. This is really just directional. You can kind of see how it's broken out. These are our core product lines. The application experience really isn't represented here, so don't get too concerned about that. But the Procore construction network is definitely going to grow the base. And then I would say, lastly, like one of the things that we have to do is we have to be prepared to adopt like the standards, like the road mapping standard, which I think is important for all of us to lean into. Because if we don't do it, then it's just we're gonna be playing catch up, and we won't have the ability to like really lean in and ask for resources when we need them. So like the sooner we can get our roadmap in order, identify the initiatives that we want to kind of go and tackle to achieve the goals for 2024, the easier it'll be for us to then go and communicate like what we need through our roadmap. We can say like, hey, here are the things that we want to go do, and here's how it will influence the corporate initiatives, and this is what we need to get there. And if we have that content, so like forget about where it all goes, but if we just know what we want to go and do, it makes it that much easier for us to just make it visible in these systems, so that way people can just see it and say, okay, I know exactly where they're headed, and we need to give them resources, or what the heck are they doing? They don't have their shit together, right? So I think it's a good one. The pillar division team planning stuff, I might be early to the game on this. Like we're supposed to prepare to do a planning exercise with the team. This is the planning exercise with the team. All right. Like we were just going to do it anyway. And then this communication came out. So I was like, screw it. Let's just use the new stuff. So we're going to get to work. I don't know. I'm excited. Does anybody have any questions or just general feedback about all this?
I am fired up. I think that after this meeting too, as we take time to, I make more edits and documents and tie things together and add more to the roadmap, maybe we reconvene and go over it as a team and make sure those are the bets we want to go after. See if the team has any other big things we want to swing to drive to hit our 24 goals. That's
Yeah.
like my main note. It's like maybe we have one more follow-up on the road mapping before mid-October.
Yeah, and is there anything that's on the roadmap for like second half of 24? Are we assuming that these things like project pages I know will take probably a couple quarters to knock out and really fully flush out on the PCN, but have we thought that far yet from y'all's perspective?
I think enabling the PCN for international markets might take a while. The public project pages feels like we're being pretty aggressive with a Q2 kind of release target. I think that's gonna be bigger than we think. So we might want to update that one. But then there's also other things too, Juliana, and I feel like you, Chris, and Jordan and Derek, we have to lean into this as a tripod. So like, what does the engineering team need that isn't reflected here? And how do we get it in? And like Jordan, if there are things from a legal perspective that you need us to advance for you, and we can be the tip of the spear, kind of like what we did with Ironclad, like let us help. I love the partnership that we have there because it just helps us kind of like advance some of the more acquisition-y user level type things. So if there are anything that comes to mind, like this, it's our roadmap and we need to own it. Yeah.
And some of that work that I read off earlier too will probably be later in 2024. It's an ambitious list.
There's some good stuff on there though. Like if we're able to set up some sort of logged in experience for people on the PCN with that save company button or whatever, then that would really spin up a lot of opportunity.
I think I've been asking about that since I joined Procore. I love that idea so much.
Well, let's do it.
And
Let's make it happen.
We're pulling in projects and like, yeah, there's just so much opportunity to have that different experience.
The common commentary is like, can I just get like the edit pencil? Can I get the edit icon when I'm logged in?
Oh, really? Yeah.
LinkedIn experience.
Yeah, honestly, all like that stuff, once we get login, like all that stuff's easy.
Yeah.
Well, then we get to have fun.
You just told Chris it's easy. There we go.
Easy. No, it's fun. It's exciting stuff. And you're right. It is a barrier and it sort of gives us the ability to do some good stuff, which is cool.
Yeah.
And then the last thing that I wanted to just share with y'all is let's just do a quick little review of the business as a whole. So just to give everybody an update on how things are going. We, in 2022, we said that we were going to shoot for about 400,000 unique users to the website. And we ended the year at about 365,000. So we were just shy of our goal. And that was when we were using Google Analytics Universal Analytics system. Google deprecated that and they created a new one called GA4. So the numbers are actually just a little bit higher than UA because we had to do some magic math there to actually get to unique user, but they've made it a little bit easier. Now we can standardize around this thing called total users, and that's what we're seeing here. I had an undocumented goal this year because we just stopped tracking traffic as like a top level metric. It's a secondary metric, but Ashley and I wanted to get to 1 million uniques by the end of the year, and we're almost there, right? And that's going to put us it's going to put us over 300% the goal. So like it's fascinating to see this this part of the website grow, and we've done it through scalable tactics with content that are driven by data and the way that we've structured our web app to consume that data and create content. And the main things that we did was, we optimized for location, right? And then on location, we layered in 3 main things to start. One was sectors, one was types, one was trades. And when we did that, we put essentially artificial limits in place for 4 different things, one for each kind of dimensions that I just mentioned. And then the 4th was we put in an artificial limit on how we would create the actual URLs on the profile on the sitemaps. So like we wouldn't create a URL unless we had an individual, like a business that was representative there. So we were able to kind of like scale this thing with guardrails in place that allowed us to do it. Since then, we've updated the sectors list is still static. We have 6 of them. I don't know that sectors are just going to like randomly pop up out of nowhere. There might be one that we missed and we can always add it down the road. But business types is now dynamic, and we've added a new business type called consultants, which allowed us to scale a little bit there. And then the 3rd thing that we did was we expanded our trades list from 21 to 755, right? And that was like a force multiplier, because we just saw like all these businesses now start to index in all of these different states and cities and locations where they did these new trades. So like they actually logged in and updated their trades after we made that release. And as a result of it, we just saw our sitemaps like organically increase by people updating their profile pages, which is fascinating. And then the last thing that we just did was we created a URL path for the classification. So we released the ability for people to go in and update the classifications for their profile pages. And that also increased the ability for us to kind of like go broad on content and scale pages on the PCN. And it's all starting to work. I mean, 300% growth year over year is something to feel really, really, really good about. So excited to see that. The
Can I ask a question about that?
yeah.
Oh, maybe this is where you're going, actually. First of all, I totally agree. 300% growth in anything is remarkable and definitely something to be proud of. I'm gonna save my question though and wait until after you talk about this.
Okay. You sure?
I think so.
Yeah. You can interrupt me. Published profiles, I think this is like the North Star for our squad. We were going to get to 150,000 profiles by the end of the year. We started the year off with roughly 54-ish, 56-ish thousand profiles. And then we just started to work on it. Knowing that we had a long list of acquisition bets that we wanted to place. The first flash in the pan that we saw was when we put the sign up for Procore link on the login page. And that's when we started to see that big pop. We put it in there in February. So we saw like an initial kind of like increase, and then we saw like a significant tick up in March, and then it just continued to go up and up and up. Like 600 signups a day. After approval, we saw about 400 actually make it through the funnel. And it was just like this gradual step up, and we're converting people who know about Procore or have never used Procore, and they're finding that login, that sign up button, and they're actually converting into free customer accounts that then publish their profile on the PCN. The most recent thing that we did, which Ashley took over the line for us, which was profile claiming. Huge force multiplier. So like the acquisition bet here was, why don't we work with the CCD to understand how many companies exist from publicly accessible data, and then run it through an enrichment process that allows us to map publicly accessible data to companies that exist in the monolith or vendors that exist in the monolith. And then also say, has that vendor ID, do they have somebody associated? Is there a user associated with that vendor ID? Have they been active, I think, in the past 12 months? And when we exported that list, we got about a list of, I think, 280,000. And so we had the list. We like knew who the target market was. So we're like, all right, we're going to take this 280,000 companies, and then now we can go create profiles for them. But before we did that, we couldn't really launch it until we had the actual claiming capability, which is what Tim Boland's team was working on. in the VR, they're doing a value release number one, but really the account creation workflow engine that allows us to do this, right? Like we're pre-creating the profiles for them, but what we needed them to do is then actually claim the profile, and then we needed to create the account for them. So we already had the company data, but we needed the user to actually say like, hey, I want this to happen. And Tim's team enabled that. So like by doing the product work to go and find the data and then work with Peter to kind of like push it through and be able to create the profiles at scale, wire it up to email, and then create the ability for the account management system to actually create those accounts. That's where we've seen this huge step up in the past 2 months. So like now we're sitting at about 134,000 profiles. I think today, this is a day behind. If we look at the data today, we've got about 136,000. We're doing 6,000 a week, which means we'll get to our goal of 150,000 by the end of October. And we will end the year at 143-ish% to plan with about 215,000 profiles, which is just crazy. So,
And potentially more, depending on other data sets that we get.
yeah. And how aggressive we want to get with ramping it, right? So it's awesome because it's all starting to kind of come together when people start to talk about like the scale or the breadth of the Procore construction network. We've kind of like unlocked it. And Jordan, you've helped us a lot with this because we had to figure out we needed to be able to leverage publicly accessible data, but while still like being able to leverage our internal insights. And you like, thank you for your support on that. I appreciate it. The last thing that I wanted to show you over here is we now have the ability to toggle between published, unpublished, claimed, and unclaimed profiles. So this lives in Tableau now. Anybody with Tableau access can get to it. And if we wanted to simply just see published, and then we wanted to see unclaimed, we can really easily see that about 25,000 of the profiles we have on the PCN have been unclaimed. We know that there are 105,000 of them that have been claimed. So like now we can actually start to see where it starts to kind of like break away. So like the more aggressive we get with publishing profiles on the PCN that are unaccompanied by an actual user who's claimed them, we can manage it like much more closely. And we can also start to like look at the trades where we may not have enough coverage and then just go find supply and just target them, like get them on the PCN and see if we can get them to claim their profile. So that way we have more people that fill that trade. So it's working. I guess that's the party line. And here we are. It's the end of Q3. Feeling really good about it. So that's all I got. I figured I'd just share this with you because when we start to think about the roadmap in the future for the Procore construction network, it's really going to be all about like getting that flywheel to spin a little bit more, diving deeper into the actual, like the bidding network is really where we have a huge opportunity. So like partnering with Ravi to make sure that we have feature parity on the data that we have on the PCN, and then the data that they're displaying to the actual GCs inside of the discoverability tool is huge. And then also enabling them with the account creation or the account management system endpoints. So that way, whenever a GC opens up the PCN, they have a real easy way to invite people that may not have claimed their account on the PCN and send them a bid invite, and then force them to create an account and claim their PCN profile before they respond to the bid. So like there's ways for us to like really drive this thing, like, and I'm like so excited about it. Yeah. Chris, did I answer your question?
Yes. I didn't know. Yes, it wasn't really a question so much as a thought, which you did address, which is how do we how do we know those additional opportunities to really get people to sign up? So like one of the biggest questions that I've always had is how many hundred thousands of people who show up on the PCN, how many of those people do not have accounts? How many people could have accounts? Why are they not signing up for ones? Are they GCs or SCs? It feels like there's just like tremendous opportunity just to know that and take action on it. And I think that is super interesting and exciting. And a lot of this stuff I've not seen. I love all this. I love it. I love it so much. And it's so empowering and exciting to have access to this and to be able to do something with it.
Good.
Um,
I'm glad you're digging it. So like, and then
Very
here's the other thing, Chris, right? So we have the CCD team has been working on essentially, and this is good. This is a good view for you too, Jordan. This is like a window into what the CCD team has been able to run through their pipeline, clean, and then organize into clusters. So right now we know that there are about 6,000 unique companies by office location in the CCD, right? Which means that they have given almost 6 million company entities CCD IDs, right? That's pretty cool. It means we have like a ton of data that we can go and work with. And keep in mind, like the CCD is the construction company data set. They own the CCD ID, identifying companies as an entity and giving them an ID. That's all they do. They can do all, like that team can do all kinds of things, but the CCD as a utility essentially gives us an ID that we can then go to Cardic and say, hey, I want to be able to use this data, and I need to then go to these different sources and pull out other information from it, right? Like the CCD isn't like the container of all of the attributes. They have a ton of attributes, but they don't have like all of the attributes, right? Why this is important for us is because now we have the ability to go in here and say, all right, these are the sources of company records that we have, right? And you can see them by source name. So you have monolith vendors, and then I'm going to skip down a few, and it says monolith companies, right? So these are your companies in the monolith, and then these are your vendors in the monolith. Then you have the Dun and Bradstreet data set. You have the Paycheck Protection Program data set, the Salesforce data set, business registry level set, and label chart. There's probably another one that's going to be added to this list here soon called Compass. And what this does is it shows us the total number of records all the way to the right. It shows what was excluded because it didn't hit the minimum threshold to be clustered by the CCD. And then it shows you the total number of clustered in the CCD. And why this is a couple different utilities for this. One is inside the monolith, there are 16 million records. 7.3 of them were excluded, probably because of dupes or bad data. When they shook it all out, they were able to get it down to about 8.6 million. Dun and Bradstreet, right? 3.5 million. It went through the CCD pipe. They shook out about 900,000. They ended up with 2.6, right? And then if we go all the way down this and we look at these numbers, one of the things that sticks out to me is that, right? I don't know when this refreshes or when it pulls the most recent data or how the systems sync in the background. So like they've got 116,000 records that are pulled from the business registry, right? 9.6 thousand of them were excluded from the clustering threshold. So this is telling me that there are probably discrepancies in about 9.6 thousand of our records that are stopping it from being clustered. And that could be like a number of different things. It could be a duplicate. It could have it could be missing trades, could be missing a website, could be missing a phone number. The address could be formatted wrong. So like here, there's like a data research opportunity for us to go and ask for, right? And we can say like, hey, we have about 9,600 records in the business registry that, you know, we've found discrepancies with, and we need somebody to go in and manually clean them up, right? That's one use, one of the ways that my brain reads this data. The other way that my brain reads this data is that we can say, hey, of these 759,000 clustered companies inside of Salesforce, Maybe Salesforce is a bad one. Let's say Dun & Bradstreet. Hey, of these 2.6 million records in Dun & Bradstreet, how many of them can I, like, what's the overlap versus non-overlap compared to the PCN? And how many of these records can I go and create profiles for? Right? Like, do I have an email address to the for them? Can I actually send emails to them and entice them to claim their profile? Do I have enough data to actually go and build profiles for them? So like as Ashley and I think about scale, or Chris, when you start to think about scale, like this is the data set that we can then kind of like go bang on a little bit and say, hey, I just need to do an analysis. We could work with Vivian and say like, hey, go look at the Dun & Bradstreet records and tell us how many of them have the minimum requirements for us to create a record in the business registry, i.e. a profile in the PCN. And that's kind of like the key, right? Because once we do that and we scale, like say we scaled profiles to 3 million on the PCN, but the majority of them were unclaimed, it makes us look like we're huge. What I don't like about it is that we then end up having a bunch of profiles that can be viewed that don't really have anybody on the other end, and we just end up being like another building connected or plan hub. But what I do like about it is that if we took the time to do the work and identify a user or a email address or a phone number, and we had the ability to kind of like publish them, go after them to try to get them to claim, and then have them have an actual account on the PCN, we can go after the entire market, the active market. The transiency of these businesses is like, I should say like the shelf life for these businesses is pretty short, right? A lot of specialty contractors kind of like come and go. So the data becomes kind of like outdated really fast. So like having a term limit on some of these unclaimed profiles might be a good thing for us to identify. I don't know. It's how I think this is where my brain goes at night when my wife's watching shows on the couch. Yeah. Anyway,
Ashley, I was going to ask Ashley, it can be after this. My VPN is broken and I had to uninstall it, so I can't access that thing that you sent. Could you like take a screenshot or maybe follow up afterwards? I don't know
Yeah,
what it is.
it was actually the same one that Tim just
Oh.
shared, where you can filter by the claim and unclaim.
There you go. How about that? Thank you.
I'm sorry about your VPN, but let me know if you need more screenshots in the future. Happy to help there.
I will. Thank you.
So anyway, I'm super excited about what we're doing. Do y'all have in 3 minutes? We should be respectful of each other's time. Sorry I talk so much.
This was awesome. Yeah, like a kind of a really, really good just like summation of kind of recap as well as look for like, yeah, like this was, I did not know we were going to pack so much in this hour. It's a lot. It's awesome.
We came in swinging.
Yeah, without going into additional detail, seeing your attention to the roadmap, what have we done? What are we going to do? Data driven, having a lot of good ideas. It's just very refreshing, and I really appreciate the time and all the effort. I'm also very, very excited about all this.
Thanks for that, Jordan. What do you need from us? I would just want to keep you close. I feel like that's like
I
my
just need to
goal.
dive in a little bit more and just kind of start brainstorming on stuff. It'll help knowing like what you're going to focus on first for international
Mm-hmm.
and kind of what the roadmap is there. And then we can start. I mean, a lot of it's the GDPR privacy stuff, but then there's some other stuff around like since their stuff is so squishy, like their laws are mostly vibes based, and like there's a new law coming out that's about social networks, but it's like defining like what is a social network,
Interesting.
does this define as a so kind of looking at some of that stuff. Like I was talking with Ashley in the background, like a lot, working with the international team, like Akshay and his team, they can help with a lot of like the localization stuff that we've stumbled on before, like calling stuff bidding instead of tendering and that kind of stuff that just makes usability difficult, but that's not legal. That's so just helping knowing where you're going is like that's fantastic.
Cool. We'll just keep you close.
All right.
And tomorrow morning we're meeting, and Jordan, I was going to show you my brief for project pages and start to loop you into that as well. So
Cool.
it's coming.
All right.
And I just want to make sure that we all feel like we have ownership here in the roadmap. So UX and engineering you all have a say here, right? Like there could be things that we didn't document or haven't thought about yet that need to be added. And we should just write it down and go fight for it, right? And I'm 100% supportive of that. So
Cool. Yeah, I've been running those block and tackling, getting ready for some things to make sure they're on the roadmap to support our the upcoming features that we know. So working on it, trying.
yeah, we got to do like we don't want to be told. We want to do the telling, right? And then they can tell us no. Like if we say, hey, we want to go do this, they'll be like, oh, well, we were thinking about that too, but you shouldn't do these other things. We're like, well, at least I got half of it, right? All right, guys. See y'all. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers.